ChatGerry, Health Age of Longevity Strain versus FPG, Visceral Fat, and Pulse Pressure. Number 1504, VPT Sharp 064, January 15, 2026. Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation. Category, Longevity. Preface, real age moves forward at a fixed speed. Health age does not. Over the years, I have seen many people whose bodies age faster than the calendar, while others slow their aging even as time passes. Medicine recognizes this difference, but it usually hides it behind labels and categories, instead of explaining why it happens. In this paper, I treat aging as a long-term physical process, shaped by daily stress on the body and by how the body responds to that stress over time. Instead of asking how old I am, I ask how my body has changed relative to time. I focus on 3 measurable factors that I can control and track, and I examine how they shaped my aging path over a 16-year period. This is not theory for theory's sake. It is a personal, data-based account of how my body moved from faster aging to slower aging, when that shift occurred, and why it lasted. How I define aging outcome. I define my aging outcome as the difference between my health age and my real age. If this number is positive, my body behaves older than my real age, meaning accelerated aging. If this number is negative, my body behaves younger than my real age, meaning slower aging and better longevity. Time itself cannot be changed, but how my body reacts to long-term stress can be changed. This definition allows me to isolate the part of aging that is still under my influence. Which 3 influential factors I studied? I focused on 3 input factors that repeatedly emerged as dominant in my long-term data. The first is fasting plasma glucose, FPG, measured in the early morning. This biomarker directly related to insulin health resistance level, and reflects long-term sugar exposure and chronic low-level inflammation. The second is visceral fat percentage, VF%, which represents deep belly fat. This fat is not passive. It actively worsens inflammation and insulin resistance. The third is pulse pressure. PP, defined as the difference between systolic and diastolic blood pressure. This reflects how stiff and stressed the blood vessels are. These 3 factors represent different kinds of stress on the body: metabolic stress, inflammatory stress, and mechanical stress. Chronic inflammation is one of the key factors influencing aging process. Data structure and time span. I used my 16 years collected data from 2010 through 2025 for this longevity study. For each year, I recorded one aging outcome value, defined as health age minus real age, along with normalized values of the 3 stress factors. Normalization allows fair comparison across time, even though these factors are measured in different units. This produces a clean picture of how my aging path evolved year by year. What the aging path shows. When I plot my data over time, 3 clear phases appear. From 2010 to 2014, my aging outcome was positive numbers. My body was aging faster than time. Stress levels were high, unstable, and changing rapidly. Around from 2014 to 2015, a major shift occurred in my aging trajectory, crossing from positive to negative. This transition period was critical because it marked a reversal in direction under sustained stress, making from 2014 to 2015 the pivot point of my longevity. From 2016 onward, my aging outcome remained negative numbers. My body aged more slowly than time. Stress levels became controlled, and changes occurred gradually. This indicates stability rather than fragility. How much each factor contributed. When I calculated the long-term contribution of each factor to my aging path, the results were clear. Fasting glucose contributed about 40%, visceral fat contributed about 33%, pulse pressure contributed about 27%. This ranking reflects long-term aging deformation, not short-term danger. Why glucose dominated? Fasting glucose ranked highest because it represents constant, daily exposure. Even modest elevation, when sustained over many years, creates cumulative damage through sugar binding, oxidative stress, and inflammation. This damage builds quietly. It does not announce itself with symptoms, but over time it reshapes how fast the body ages. In my case, glucose control had the strongest influence on slowing aging. Why visceral fat came next? Visceral fat is not just stored energy. It actively amplifies inflammation and worsens insulin resistance, which then pushes glucose higher. In my data, visceral fat acted both directly and indirectly. It added its own stress while strengthening glucose-related damage. This is why it ranked second. Why pulse pressure ranked third? Pulse pressure reflects blood vessel stiffness and mechanical stress. It plays a major role in triggering sudden events, such as stroke or heart attack. However, for slow aging over decades, its cumulative impact was smaller than chronic metabolic and inflammatory stress. Pulse pressure is critical for acute survival, but less dominant in gradual aging erosion. What this means for longevity. The most important finding is that my improvement was not temporary. It was a lasting shift in how my body behaved under stress. Lower averages alone are not enough. Direction matters. Stability matters. Continuity matters. My data show that when chronic metabolic stress is reduced and kept under control, aging can slow in a durable way. The body does not just look better on paper, it actually follows a different path. Conclusion. By defining aging as the difference between health age and real age, and by tracking how 3 controllable input stress factors shape that difference over 16 years, I was able to quantify what truly drives long-term aging. Chronic glucose exposure dominates slow aging deformation. Visceral fat amplifies that process. Blood vessel stiffness remains critical for sudden events, but plays a smaller role in gradual aging. Most importantly, aging is not an inevitable fate. It is a long-term process that can be measured, understood, and partially redirected through sustained control of the right influential factors. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is provided for educational reference only, and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article, and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.